Hi. The I'm back. I'm sorry I've been away. Um, I finally got to read some of the comments and your responses to my first video, and it has encouraged me to come back. Thank you for those of you that did respond. I had no idea um, that that this would actually begin to touch people. It really is an outlet for me. I've got many other videos that I've sort of made in my own, for my own purposes, but I like the idea of having a digital record, dated, and in a space that makes it more permanent. So as if you've seen my first video, you would have seen that my I was kind of quite camouflaged in the first one, and to be honest, I was really hot and a little bit uncomfortable. So I think this is still anonymous enough. You got to see a bit of my person, my space, and it's very hot where I live, so it's going to be more helpful. And again, I'm sorry for the anonymity, but I think if you're INFJ, you're going to understand where I'm coming from, in terms of because of our name and who we are in our communities and in our families and in our jobs. We often feel like there's a lot to us that we hide from the world, and this is a space specifically for me, so that I can practice being more authentic and more transparent about my conflicts and my opinions and my experiences, as I have noticed now, getting on with my age, that I really haven't cultivated those spaces within my immediate community space. And as INFJs, I believe that we have a real responsibility to reach out to our communities, to our families, to our friends, in a way that feels authentic to us. Because when we reach out, I think, to others, at least, again, this is all my experience, I feel like when I reach out to others, it's often to meet them where they're at. And I've not worked very hard at inviting people to meet me where I'm at. And I think because we have such a rare functioning, cognitively speaking, I don't think that we're really going to find others that are going to be able to get that immediately, know how to gel with us immediately. So rather than, I've taken a different approach. Rather than feeling like I'm a victim to a world that doesn't understand a sensitive personality or an empathic personality, I've made it my role to truly educate the people I adore and trust around me, so that I feel safer with them in opening up, because I know they often feel safe with me. Now that's obviously a work, and I'm slowly making progress, but you guys here, whoever is here, are my first real attempt at being 100% transparent. So if you're INFJ, if you want to know about INFJ, and if you're an empath or highly sensitive, I encourage you to participate in this role, where we truly own our traits and not feel victims to our incredibly sensitive personality, and truly become empowered. And I've got some really good reasons as to why, and as I get more organized with the videos, I'll be able to share some of my own research, some of my own experience. But I was really encouraged to make this video today because I just wanted to point out the two. Hold on, I've got a few responses in the first video, and I don't know why I didn't get these. I guess I haven't checked my email for this channel. But I've got Kirkor that wrote to me, and thank you, Kirkor. If you watch this again, I really encourage you to do this. I think more of us have to do it. There really aren't enough INFJs in the world. The YouTube platforms are really inundated with all the extroverted personalities, and they're really good at that. But I encourage you, just shake. I saw my first video and I realized how nervous I really was, because I was being really transparent and really authentic, and I felt really vulnerable even though there was no one else in my room but me. And so yeah, it's terrifying, but I felt really good after I did it. And reading your responses, made me feel even better. I got subscribers, I got likes, and so I'm not alone here, guys. And so thank you. And feel free to comment and give me ideas about things that we can share. I'll be always speaking from my platform, from the experiences I'm doing. I'm quite an active INFJ in the workforce, in my field, in my life. So I'm going to be sharing from that quite a fair bit. So things like Kirkor, the things you wrote about mindfulness, meditation, grounding, knowledge about the subconscious mind, these are all the delicious topics that I've focused most on in my whole development. And obviously a lot of INFJs suffer from my anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress, and I've got some insight, at least personal ones, that I hope will benefit anyone else that's listening here. I know that the current epidemic that is hitting the globe is not just with the empaths, it's with the wider population, and there's very good reasons for that. But the soft ones are definitely a big target for feeling overwhelmed in a system that feels like is going a little bit too fast for our human functioning, at least. So Kirkor, I hope you come back, and thank you for sharing and for writing. And I encourage you to and I'll become a subscriber as well, so we can encourage each other. Also from C. Rivera, I could, thank you once again for reaching out, and you talked about the sense of loneliness and isolation, and I read yours, and I was really encouraged because I understand that place, and I think like I may have something to share in regards to those things, and I'm actually going to sort of continue the video with this topic about isolation, guys. If you have suffered from feeling lonely, it's not uncommon, okay? It's not only as an INFJ, like I said, most of the world's population today is having some really severe mental health. We are experiencing serious mental health issues, and that's because I think we have a lot of repressed emotion, and we have not created a system that enables for the expression of emotions and thoughts and inner conflict. So we repress them, we become sick. Now, if there was a very long time where I could not stand being in my own space, being alone meant I was incarcerated with my inner demons, with my fears, with my past, with my traumas. So I avoided everything so that I wouldn't be alone. And I was extremely involved in community work and altruistic behaviors, and just kept burning out. I got very sick, extremely sick. And once I identified that a lot of this had to do with the fact that I didn't know how to be alone and with my own space. Now, for an introvert, that's hell, because you're not safe in the outside, and then you're not safe on the inside. So I really began a deep work to face some of the inner demons and fears and limitations and traumas and past. And I have committed all of my life to addressing that, because I thought, okay, if I don't know how to make the outer world a better place, I'm going to have to make my inner world a much nicer place, because I noticed I wasn't very nice to myself. I was extremely perfectionistic, very hard, had really high expectations on me. And I know you're identifying INFJ. So I made a specific pact with myself to make a nice inner experience, a nicer inner environment. Mindfulness meditation really helped with this. And now I can tell you that I am an INFJ that absolutely adores her inner world. I have discovered caves and doorways and labyrinths inside of me that lead me to really special places. It's a lot nicer in my inner world now, and by virtue of making the inner world a bit nicer, I'm also being able to see a much nicer outer world. So my world around me is becoming more and more beautiful as the days continue. So I really encourage you, INFJ, to seek assistance if you can, because I don't think it's something that you can do on your own, depending on your age. I'm 37, and obviously I've got a bit more grounding behind me now. As an adolescent and as a young woman, I literally did not know my north from my south extroverted, feeling controlled every experience. Everybody else's needs was more important than my own. So I really wanted to highlight this loneliness. So Rivera, I wanted to share that with you specifically, okay, because it's terrible and it's painful, but really work now at making the inner world a bit nicer. And I can tell you right now that we can start doing that by speaking nicer words to ourselves. No criticizing whatsoever. Zero. We must abandon self-criticism in a negative way, okay? We can encourage, we can dissect them, we can be introspective, we can definitely like point negative behavior and maladaptive behavior, but we must never attack our sense of self, okay? We're not stupid, we're not failing, we're not these words that we were told from probably childhood. We're just incredibly fragile and sensitive. Now underneath that, we are incredibly strong, and I got to tap into my power before I got to tap into my soft power. So I really encourage you, INFJ, no matter what age you're at, to continue in that journey of self-exploring, being very nice to yourself in the inner world, no judgments, lots of compassion, so that you at least don't feel so isolated and lonely, because we do need a lot of time alone anyway. Now, I don't want to make these videos as self-help, like I'm not trying to help anybody with these videos. I do that in my work. I'm training in psychology, and I do, like, my profession is dedicated to guiding others with research-based education. That's my profession. This is my therapeutic space. So you guys have got to help me, and I hope you understand that often we will find we really derive a lot of self-worth and value when we're able to, like, nourish somebody else and guide somebody else with wisdom. But when we're doing that, we're deviating from our needs being met, and us talking about our shit. Okay, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on YouTube. Somebody will tell me if I'm not. So these videos are about me talking about the stuff that's burdening me. Okay, and I think that's you guys are going to identify anyway. Now, currently, so the loneliness stuff, again, just encouraging you guys to truly seek assistance in that. Mindfulness meditation is really helpful. Definitely private mental health assistance, so you can get a therapist or a group. Really do that if you can afford it, and if not, well, then you've got the online community now. There's the INFJ groups on Facebook that are just amazing. Like, INFJs give really good advice, so I encourage you to go on there and continue sharing your platform. The second thing I wanted to say is I encourage you to do the videos, guys. I'm going to enjoy these. I am enjoying it as I'm doing it right now, and it will help you observe your journey and your story. And don't think that you're doing it for anybody else but for you, okay? There is a massive shortage of intuitive teachers in our society today, and we are really leaders in that space. It's what our personalities are made to do, and but because we're often overwhelmed with stress and anxiety and depression and post-traumatic traumas and whatnot, we are often not tapping into our capacity to educate and teach. So this is kind of how I want to end the video with this last topic. This is kind of where I'm going in terms of what we're designed to do, what we're good at, and how we are impacted negatively when we are not doing what we're good at. And it's often so that's one thing. That's not to mention traumatic impacts from childhood, but I've identified that when I'm doing what I love, I have less symptoms and less illnesses, and so it's definitely a direction. So I really encourage INFJs to begin to observe what they're doing in their life and look at what we're made to do naturally, like read up on the reports and the current data on INFJ personalities, and work really diligently to conduce your profession and the things you talk about and the things you do towards the things that nourish you. And that's kind of where I'm at 37. It took me a while, but I got there. So I just wanted to share some insight, and maybe you guys can help me reflect. So basically, for a very long time, I've suffered with extremely low energy. I mean, almost chronic fatigue. I was diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome when I was 23 years old, and literally explosive bowel symptoms that did not make being at university very, very helpful. In fact, extremely painful. I ended up in hospital multiple times a year, constantly on sick leave. I had to constantly put off deadlines for reports, and many other symptoms physiologically, and falling asleep everywhere and anywhere. And I just kept thinking I was sick, and well, my doctor said I was sick. Once I began to just sort of understand, and years later, honestly, I was sick for a very long time. I went through all types of tests and medications, and was very obedient to my doctors, as most of us are. We're terribly agreeable, and that was okay. I got to learn a lot through that. But in 2013, I hit another massive burnout, sort of depressive episode, very, very dark space, and that's when I began to identify that I wasn't actually alone this time. I felt like I was in a really safe place. My depression had really cushioned me at that time. That was 2013. Anyway, that episode lasted about 3 months of me being in bed. This was straight after I finished my postgraduate. So I'd completed my thesis and ended up in this really dark space. However, I took it very seriously. I had been reading a little bit about the dark night of the soul. There's a bit of that online now. Got a few authors that have specialized on that topic. So I took on a different approach to my pain this time, where rather than perceiving the pain as a failure, the suffering, as evidence of me screwing up, I took it as an intelligence. And this time I decided to use the suffering and learn from it and hear what it was trying to tell me. And oh boy, did I get to learn a lot. So I ended up having the honor and the privilege to return to a cottage that Mum and Dad had built when we were young. This is on one of the islands here off the coast of Australia. And I had a really, really special time with myself. It was the first year I was able to practice silent meditation. I was able to nurture my mind with new information, education, plenty of self-education, and just really got to sort of do what I felt like doing on a day-to-day basis, and sort of silenced what I felt the world wanted me to do on a day-to-day basis. And I still had very low energy, and I thought, well, I'm going to get better, and my energy did increase, but it still was low. Then I had a really dark experience in 2015. This wasn't inner, this was an outer experience. So in my world, something very terrible happened, and I ended up living away from Australia for a few years. And my energy again was very, very low. 3 years into that story, I began to make, I was just like, especially in this process of working to really be where I am, the practice of like being here, because I noticed that being idealists, we're always seeking to be where we are not. And as I began to realize this obsessive habit of always needing to be somewhere else, and I realized this, especially with our habit, with our capacity for dissatisfaction, we're the most prone to be dissatisfied in love and in work. And I thought, I began to see that in my own nature, and that I think it had something to do with our incapacity to be where we are. So I began to practice being where I am. And where I was at that time was again another burnout mode. It was a dark emotion, and I was like, okay, well, I'm here, and I'm going to practice being here, and with full trust that if I knew how to be here in the dark moment, when the moment was bright, I would finally be able to be also in the bright moments. So this is a practice I think us idealists really need to do, to be here now and trust that the visions that we see of a brighter tomorrow, or a better relationship, or a better profession, or better decisions, these things inspire us to make better decisions today. But we cannot continue allowing our visions to make us feel like our future is better than our today. Tell me if that makes sense. So in that practice, I began to just really befriend my low energy. And I was like, well, I've had low energy since I became a young adult. And like, obviously, if you're having physiological symptoms, get them checked out. Like, don't sit on it. Make sure you're not sitting in your mind thinking you've got cancer or becoming a hypochondriac. Definitely make sure you get to the bottom of the symptoms. And so I did that, and I'm healthy. I really am healthy. I maybe like low vitamins sometimes because I didn't know how to take care of my food either. I had to do that and understand the importance of nutrients. So here I'm doing all the right things, and my energy's still really low. And I know you guys suffer. I know a lot of you INFJs suffer from low energy. And then I'm just like, well, I'm just slow. What's the consequence of me having low energy? Well, I'm just slower than everybody else. Okay, I made friends with that. I realized when I action well. I execute really well when I'm on. When I'm on, I'm on. And when I'm off, I'm off. I tell everybody now I'm just useless. So the more I've embraced my low energy, the more I'm realizing I was only criticizing my low energy because I thought I had to run at the pace that everybody else was running. And I'm just learning to accept that I don't really want to run at that pace anymore. And now I don't even have the energy for it. Especially when you give up caffeine and Red Bull, all the things I had to give up to not be sick physiologically. And here I am, primarily vegan. I've got ideas about that, which I'll share throughout the videos. I definitely eat more vegetables, more greens. We need that. Lots of water. I get lots of sun. I do the good stuff. My energy is still quite low. And I realize in my low spaces is when I'm writing, when I'm digesting ideas and potentials, and I'm looking at my projects and its potentials. Obviously, this is the year I'm stepping up to the social entrepreneurial world. It's gutsy for an INFJ because we are not very materialistic. We're not success focused. We're not profits focused. But I had a big conviction last year that idealists really do need to step up in the business world because there's plenty of sociopaths taking up that space right now because we're too busy being bombarded with our own anxiety and depression, feeling useless. So I've taken on this year as a businesswoman. So I'm launching a social enterprise. It's obviously its focus is very humanitarian. My rules, I decided I'm going to do this my way, my rules, with my prices, with my charges, with my so I'm creating a compassionate sliding scale for the community project fees. It's extremely sustainable. And now, so then obviously I was still, while I was developing the project, I'm like, how am I going to deal with a successful project or business at the same time as registering to be a psychologist and deal with my low energy and my deep need for space and silence, for space and time where I'm in silence and alone. And then I realized I'm going to have to create my own model because I don't dislike my low energy anymore. I don't dislike my silence anymore. I really like it and I really enjoy it because we don't action very much, idealists. And if you are, then you definitely be burning out quite often. But we like to really think and map out and see the structures and the consequences and the win-win, right? And I realized I'm going to have to create a working schedule, a working platform that is going to nourish my personality because I refuse to return to the world under their conditions because I don't like the hours that we work. I don't like the fact that mothers have to spend so much time away from their babies or that daddies have to spend 80 hours a week to create financially successful enterprises. And I think as an idealist, we can begin to use the emotional intelligence that we innately carry or have developed as well through time to bring these back into the social business world and create ways to have projects and businesses. Oh, my battery's going to die. Guys, I'm going to cut it here. because it's gonna die. But I'll be back, I promise. God bless. I hope you liked this